what you found on your arm. You want a thick enough layer of foundation that it's a bit tacky. This will help the contour, the shades and highlights you put in to blend more easily. If you have very dry skin, or at this time of year you have dry skin, it's a good idea to do a layer of moisturizer, maybe a half hour, or even just before class. You want to come all the way to the ears. You're using this, one of these sponges. As I think I told you last week, you can get a few uses out of these if you wash them, just as you would any kind of sponge. Get all the way to the ears, all the way into the hairline. If there's any spot that you miss in foundation, Stage Light will pick it up. It'll shine different, it'll look a little blank, it'll look strange. So you want to get all the way into the hairline and down the neck. Not so far that if you were wearing a collared shirt or period costume that it would get all over. Your costume designer will be angry. But you do want to blend it down into the neck so it kind of disappears. Stay closed. If you're working on another person, remind them that you might be coming at their eyeball. So get that little crevice, get across the lid, get all the way to the lash line. The first time that you do foundation on the face, do half the face and sort of check in and make sure that the color that you've mixed on your hand works just as well on your face. You don't want to go lighter than your skin tone, especially if you're very fair, as Emily and I are. Otherwise you're going to look chalky. If you're Danner or you're doing makeup on a man, you definitely don't want to go lighter because lighter skin tends to read as feminine, so a little bit darker is better. Similar to as if you're a woman playing a man, darkening your skin tone a little bit will start to tell the story of masculinity. Get on the chin. Again, if I'm like working on the side and I'm blocking the way, just like move around. Stay close. Of this sponge are very helpful for getting into little crevices like around the eyes and around the nostrils. And if you like get it into your hair a little bit or into your brows, it's not a big deal. You'll be able to clean it up later. Really get into those crevices. On your lips, clean that up later. Be sure to get under the nose too. That's a spot that's easy to miss. Open your eyes and look up at the ceiling. Yeah. When working on another person, if you're around the eye area, which can make somebody jumpy, having them look in a different direction, all the way up to the lash line. Super still. So I tend to work top down or sort of midway and then up and then down. Order that you place things in doesn't matter, but you do need to start with shadow. So this is the cream contour wheel, light medium. The color you're going to want if you're the light medium is this brown, the cinnamon cream. In the medium to dark, that's going to be called something different. Medium is sienna red adjuster, but it's the brown one. It's the brown one in here. You can have a seat, Erin, if you don't want to stand.
Oh,
All right. The first thing we're going to do is lay in all the shadows that stage light will rob us on the face. So that's under the cheekbones, right? That's in that little spongy section of the temples. In the crease where the eye socket meets the eyeball. A little bit in the chin. Under the jaw. Down the sides of the nose. Women and men kind of do opposites in terms of how deep and dark to make the shadows, because there are shadows that are masculine and there are shadows that are more feminine. So for example, this crease in here, who would want to wear it more darkly? Women or men? Yes. Women, yeah. Women wear eyeshadow to emphasize this crease. The deeper the shadow, the greater emphasis, right? What about cheekbones? Attractive feminine feature, attractive masculine feature. Yeah, we wear blush too. Cheekbones are feminine, whereas jaw, strong, heavy jaw, masculine or feminine? Masculine, right. So, red and blue. Women are going to want darker shadows under the eyes, cheekbones. Men are jaw. What about temples? Masculine, feminine. Yeah, absolutely. Anything that emphasizes sort of the architecture of the face, the angles, is going to be more masculine. Temples, jaw, nose. Curves or traditional spots of feminine beauty are going to be darker on women. So eyeshadows, cheekbones. What about this little shadow right here that your lip causes? Is that more masculine or feminine? Oh, everyone look in the mirror and puff out their lip a little bit to make it look. Does that shed any light? Full, voluptuous lips that cast a little shadow over the chin. That's feminine. Put it back. Where am I forgetting? That's it. Of course, this is trafficking in cliche and gender stereotype. But from a distance, we want to sort of draw attention to the face's most attractive features. So that's why we emphasize eyes and cheekbones on women, jaw and temples on men. So, Brian, you're going to sort of play the opposite game for me. All right. You'll find that I think the smaller of your two brushes, right? That's what we determined. They've changed the sizes on me. The smaller of your two brushes are the ones you're going to want to use for most things. It's going to give you greater control. Most everything I'm going to do on Emily is going to be pat-a-path. So I'm going to start at the cheekbones. I would start top down with the temples, except that those are going to be a little lighter. So we want to get some of our deeper shadows in first. To find where your shadow goes on your cheekbone, you want to be just under the widest point of the cheekbone. So dig your fingers in. Feel like where your finger hooks in under the cheekbone. That is a little too low. If you're like in the hollow totally under the cheekbone, you're going to sort of make your face look a little heavier than this. You want to be sort of just where the cheekbone comes to its widest point and starts to curve away. Where it starts to curve away is where you want to lay your shadow. For many of you, this is going to be a sort of a triangular area that's narrow and then widens in the hollow and then narrows again. You'll sort of be able to see the shape if you look in the mirror and kind of suck in, like you can kind of see that hollow. Emily's is very clean and defined, so all I have to do is color it in. Start in the middle because those are my longest lines. And remember, in pat-a-path, we want the color to be as even as possible. Now it's going to make it a little hard for me to blended in nicely. But Emily, could you do a little walk around so everyone can see that? So you want a triangular shape. Widest in the hollow, narrows out at the hairline, and then sort of even with the end of the eyebrow narrows out. Can you see that? How it really does draw attention to the bone itself? All right, so working quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other side even before I blend that in, because I can see more easily. You can see more easily if I'm matching the two. And again, don't be shy if you want to come get up close to see what I'm doing.
So would I be doing this, or would I be doing my
You're definitely going to do it. You're going to do it a little more lightly. Let me see if we're even. I've got this one a little lower. I'm going to come in and add a little to the top. You can turn it. Yeah, so I've got them in. They look even when I look back and forth, so now I'm going to blend them. Remember, you're tapping your finger through. Many of you will find, having worked on your arms, that it's much easier to blend onto your face. Your face gets warmer. Remember, you want to really maintain that shape. Tap gently through and don't go outside the lines you've created. Now, if you really want to soften it up, you can take a clean brush and just brush away at the edges ever so slightly to help it blend into the skin. Again, we want the lines to disappear, we want the color to be smooth, we want it to maintain the shape we created. So now I'm going to do temples. So, Brian, the sort of darker color here and the lighter color here, you're going to do the opposite. So how do you create a lighter colored shadow if you're using the same color? Yeah, just use less. So to determine sort of you want to sort of emphasize where the bony area of the skull begins. So find that little spongy area. Some of you it's going to be a little triangle, some of you it's going to be a rectangle. You just want to color in ever so lightly. Sort of emphasize this nice sort of skull line where the skull kind of curves. So while I try and get the second one in there, I'm looking at the other side. Symmetry is really important. Who can tell me why? Yeah, people like symmetric faces, like when they're watching the video. But from a distance, whatever makeup we've created, that's how the face is going to be perceived. So if you've got like a temple or a cheekbone shadow here and here, their face is going to look lopsided. Alright. If you get a little too much on or it gets a little dark like this side is, just rolling a clean Q-tip over it will soften it up. That emphasizes that nice straight bridge of the nose. Now if you don't have a straight bridge of the nose, if you have to say a ski slope or a bump in it like I do, doing a nice straight shadow down the side of the nose will help create the illusion of a straighter nose. That's why we call it corrective, because we can correct what nature didn't quite give us. Your book would have you bring this shadow all the way up into the eye socket. I think that looks heavy and raccoony. So I stop it sort of here at the bridge. symmetry, where you start, how deep the color is, really important on the nose, or you're going to make your nose look crooked. You want to come down in this triangle all the way to the top of the nostril and then stop. So why don't you walk around and show people that before it blends. See, so it's two little triangles. They stay on the nose. They do not blend into the cheeks. They create a straight line. You see that? And notice on her, I've got it sort of no darker than I would on the temple. Oh, sorry. So really soft, right? And Brianna over there might not even totally be able to see what I've done. That's the idea. We don't want things all heavy. This is basic corrective for the small stage, so up to 300, 400 seats. We want to keep it subtle so it doesn't look makeup-y. Alright, next I'm going to do this little soft area under here. For small stage, Brian, you might even want to leave this out, but just for the purposes of so you know that we would do it on a woman. A real light one for me. This shape is essentially going to follow the shape of that little shadow, kind of a half moon, that just sort of wraps around this fat pad. So kind of a half moon or a crescent this way under the lip. So it kind of wraps around. Make sure that's centered. Got that dark actually. And again, if you get outside the lines, you make any mistakes, just wipe it clean. If it's really bad, like say it's eyeliner pencil or something, might want to wet the Q-tip, rub it off, and then you'll want to reapply foundation in that spot. All right, now the jaw, you're going to start. The jaw shape is going to be kind of like a soft J or L. Look in the mirror so that you can see where your sort of jaw wraps around. You can feel it too. There's kind of a turn, kind of a hook. You want to bring that all the way up to your ear. And the shape is going to sort of start narrow, just like the cheek shape. Start narrow, widen sort of here where the shadow is cast as deepest, and then narrow to the chin. So you want to end it like directly under the iris of your eye. Yeah, be sure to check you might need to contort, especially if you're nearsighted, to get to these spots. Just be sure to relax your face so you can sort of check where you've put them against how you look when you're relaxed. And do a little pass through and show them that. You'll notice that it's narrow, and then here, where your jaw is sort of like heaviest, is widest, and then it narrows again. To blend it, I'm going to come around to the other side and just stay straight. Sometimes I'll start where I know the lines are going to be longest, and I'll work my way to either side. Sometimes on the jaw, instead of doing lines down, I'll do them up, because they sort of hit against where I want them to end. And if as you're getting them in there, you get lines that are a little too heavy or thick, because you say just tapped into the makeup, you'll find if you just go over them a few times, they'll sort of dissipate for you. Use touch. That one's a little lower. sense of touch will help you measure. I'm just going to whisk it a little out of the way. Good. Finally, we're going to do eyeshadow. For Dave, this is going to be the same shape, but you're going to do it pat to pat. We'll keep it a little softer. So just a little crescent shape in the eye socket area, just to bring out the eye. Ladies, you're going to do the line and feather. So the line and makeup, wipe the brush, feather it out. The reason why I had you do the shape that we did for the brushwork exercise is because it's vaguely shaped like the eyeshadow. If you get it with your eye closed into where you think the crease is going to be, it's probably going to be too low. Aim a little high, and then with practice you'll get placement. If we go too low, then we make the eye seem smaller, heavier. Yeah.
You start at the crease.
You're going to start, good question, you're going to start at the edge, the inner edge of the eyeball, bring it out and up. Yeah. Not right, exactly, in the crease. So here to here. Right, you're emphasizing that spot where the eye socket meets. You may find that one pass is enough, or you may find you need a little more shadow. You might want to go over it again. So, here. Can everyone see that? And go ahead and open your eye. Yeah, do you see how it's right in that crease toward the inside, but I get a little higher toward the outer edge? If you exaggerate sort of the height on this outer third, you're going to make your eyes look bigger. So don't worry about the fact that up close you can see that that's not the natural shape of the crease. Instead of coming right back down, come up and out just a little without exaggerating it. So then you wipe that brush clean. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feather, not straight up, but I'm going to feather out toward the arch, which is prettiest. If I send my feathering toward the angle of the arch, it's going to open up the eye. It's going to look really pretty. See that? Alright, now what I'm going to do is, just because over the course of this makeup, do you ever do eyeshadow and an hour later you look at it and you've got like a big wet crease? There's a lot of natural oil on the eyelid. So I'm just going to take a little bit of clean paper towel and just tap it lightly, just to help absorb a little of that excess oil before we get a chance to powder. So don't rub, very gently, and sort of tap off a little of that. Right, so really important that we get the other side symmetrical, or she's going to look sort of lopsided. Before you blend the second one, double check it against the first one. Squinting will help. You can just like see the outlines of the colors. Then wipe that brush dry and then feather toward the brush. Replace it. On that edge, nice and carefully. You may find that one's a little darker than the other. Very gently, with just a little bit of color on the brush, go back in there to wherever it's not quite as dark as you want it to be. Make sure your brush is clean when you go back after that. Yeah, do you see that? So you can go ahead and relax. I've exaggerated the crease at the outer edge. I've also drawn it a little farther past her eye. It's going to make the eyes look more open, wider, bigger. And then what I'll do is with pencil, I'm going to go in and I'm going to outline her brow a little bit just to exaggerate that shape as well, make the whole eye area a little bigger. Great. So up close you can see, oh, it's a little above the natural crease, but Tori, can you tell where you are? No. So even from the first row, they're not going to be able to tell. They're just going to see that your eyes are big and wide, which is really important because psychologically we are told that we will understand less of what you say if we can't see your eyes. So you will actually help make the actor better understood from a distance if you exaggerate the shape of their eye. For real. It's all shadow. Am I missing any shadow? No. Is there anything that your book does that I haven't done, shadow-wise? Of a rectangle right on top of the cheekbone. Yep. Show that around before I blend it in. I mean, the highlight is so subtle it looks blended in already, but I still am going to go through and pat a path. So just a little rectangular shape. Can you see that? Right. And we want it to be subtle. We don't want a big, super visible, chalky stripe. We just want a slightly brighter area. A little rectangle right next to the shadow on the temple as well. Now it's really important that you come right up to it, but you don't touch it. You don't want highlight and shadow blending in together or you just end up with a big mess. But you want them almost to touch. Now the only exception to my everywhere a shadow, a highlight rule is just to bring out the nice sort of curve of her forehead. I'm going to do a little like oval across the center of the forehead. And again, I find it easier when I'm doing a shape to start from the middle of the shape and work my way out. See, it just sort of brings forward that forehead a little bit. Down the nose, and again, you want to be really subtle on the nose so it doesn't go chalky. On the highlight, you can come all the way to the tip of the nose. Don't go further than that, or it's going to make your nose look longer than it is. So on the nose, these are horizontal lines, and then you blend down the nose. Otherwise, have you noticed the lines, I sort of go in the direction of the shape I'm creating? So like on the cheekbone, the lines are this way, and on the temple, the lines are this way. You know, cheekbone, temple. Sort of go in the direction along the jaw as well. Again, a long thin rectangle that almost touches, but does not touch. Highlight, there's not really a difference in the amount that a man or a woman uses or how dark it is. We just want to keep it subtle, almost imperceptible. And then on the chin, you want to emphasize this like sweet little fat pad. So we're going to do a little oval. Okay, I missed anything. Eyes. Women, the easiest way to do this is just get a little on the brush and lightly paint in the lower eyelid. You'll see right away, well, I don't just have you painting in shapes other places because it comes on really heavy and it kind of gets everywhere. So be careful with it. But you want to paint the lower lid just up to where that line starts. But again, you don't want to mix highlight and shadow. Men, you want to keep this subtle, so you could even take your pinky and just tap a little along, highlight along that lash line. Stay closed for me. And maybe the other eye. Only if they were jumpy. I started, and again, you're going to take a little piece of paper. I started doing makeup for an opera company as an intern, long time ago. And a little bit, just under that arch, some little spot. The size of it really depends on the width between the width of your eyelid. I mean, I've got crazy amount of space between my eye and my eyelid, so that for me is like a ½ inch. Some people might just be tiny. It just depends on that shape. That's all shadows and highlights. Of course, it goes without saying that unless you have multiple brushes of the same size, you want to take that small brush between doing shadow and doing highlight and clean it off very thoroughly. If you're using your large brush as kind of a blender to blend the edges, you're going to want to wash that one off between shadow and highlight as well. If you are an actor and plan to keep doing that, picking up a few extra brushes is a good idea. You can get them online. I like the Ben Nye brushes, but also you can get, you know, these are just art supply. You know, I got these at Michael's or something. It's essentially the same thing. The Ben Nye are a little softer and easier to contend with. All right, next is adding in color. You have lip color here, and they have rouge color. Essentially, they're made of the very same pigments. So you can play around with them, blend them, find sort of what is the combo that works better for you. Great. Powder blush is easier to work with. So for today, for small stage, we're going to use just powder blush. It doesn't have the staying power that cream blush does, so when we do our next project, which is basic corrective for the large stage, which deepens everything and exaggerates the size of everything, we will layer cream blush and powder blush. So for now, we're going to start with this guy. It was in there the whole time. Depending on how fair you are, this could end up going on pretty heavy. So you want to tap your brush in there, tap off the excess. You might even want to test it on your hand. Best way to find where you blush naturally is to smile. You want to pick up the apple of your cheek. We're essentially going to start doing circular motions in the apple, and then you're going to brush it toward the cheekbone. So the shape is going to end up being something like this. So to get that in the center and then send it up toward the cheekbone. So it's then going to end up being a sort of a teardrop shape. It's going to blend a little bit on top of your shadow and a little bit on top of your highlight. That's fine. And indicate that in your chart as well, that the blush kind of like layers on top of those other areas. You want to be careful not to get your blush too low or it's going to stage your face. You want to keep it on that apple where you smile. It is more than what would look natural if you were going out. You want it to be visible. About like that. So heavier than you would feel comfortable with. For you, same place, same shape, just a little less. Especially since you have some pink undertones anyway, we don't want to make you look like an alcoholic, essentially. Right. The red color, when we're doing aging or we're doing character makeup, red color will suggest, just as paleness will suggest illness, broken capillaries, lack of health, hard living. All right, blush 2, we want to get, yeah, right round area and then send it up toward the cheek. If you are, even in street makeup, if you are going to be photographed, you're a bridesmaid, say, wear more blush than you usually would, otherwise you're going to look pale in photo. We want to get it as even as we can. This stuff is not, the blush is not the best part of this kit, but if you keep working on it, it will smooth itself out. So yeah, sort of like a comet. Circular and then send it out. Kind of a hard edge there, it wasn't pretty. Alright, what am I? Eyeliner. I do the powder blush before I powder because otherwise, if I put a layer of powder which seals up the makeup, takes away the tackiness, keeps it from being sweat off or like wiped off, if I were to put the blush on after that, it would have less to adhere to, right? So it blends more easily when you put blush right onto the foundation. Lip color as a finishing touch, you can do it after you powder. It helps keep the color more vibrant. And we'll do this before eyeliner as well. You want to do pencils after you powder. You want to do any colored powder before you powder. Now, if this were sort of a fashion look, let's say she was a character from the 80s, we would put, you don't want to do a big, heavy, massive amount of powder, just enough to set and make sure we take shine out. Go like this, right? Yeah. The upper lid will tend to sweat. As actors, don't forget this jaw shadow down here. I like to do sort of short little spot lines that draw sort of rub into each other. You can do one clean line if you prefer. your eyebrow hair, and yet I use a blonde pencil. So for those of you who like have sparse brows and want to fill them in or thicken them, use the pencil that closely matches your skin tone rather than your hair. It's going to look the most natural. So with little hair-like wisps in the direction of hair growth, I'm just going to fill in her brows just a little bit. I'm going to start from the base of them just so I'm not introducing a new color at the end. Just going to lengthen just a little bit. See what a difference that makes? Look at how much bigger that one eye looks than the other. Can you see? Yeah, turn toward these things for a second. See that? Just kind of opens everything up. Especially if your brows get skinny like mine outside the crease, but you want to thicken the whole line from the crease or from the arch out, just so it's not like skinny, 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 skinny forever, that it sort of thickens and then tapers. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fill it in.
Okay, just the same way that you do that?
Yeah. Use a little brush will help give you a greater shape. And again, what's called lip color here versus what's called rouge, just play around with some blend of the two. So just use the edge of the brush, sort of follow the natural lip line. We're not going to exaggerate it for this project, though we will do that sort of thing later. This word of the wise will not be, again, I'm not requiring you to go pick up anything else, but if you have a lip color that you really like, so long as it's a natural finish, like a satin, like no sparkles, not super glossy, we don't want lip gloss, not matte, which goes really